Erica Schulman was the picture of health, a high-functioning, active CEO who happened to be admitted to her own hospital for a minor heart rhythm irregularity. She was expected to be a routine observation case, yet within hours, she suffered complete heart failure and died. Her death baffled the medical staff. Schulman had passed a full physical just a year prior, and the arrhythmia that brought her in was far from life-threatening. A sudden cardiac collapse in a controlled hospital environment suggested an external factor. The post-mortem toxicology report provided the explanation: massive levels of digoxin in her blood. Jonas, the medical examiner, noted that these concentrations suggested the poisoning likely began before she ever arrived at the ER, as digoxin can be used to intentionally trigger the very arrhythmias that force a patient into hospital care. Digoxin is a potent cardiac medication derived from the toxic foxglove plant. While it has historical uses for heart failure, it is rarely utilized in modern medicine due to its narrow safety margin and superior alternatives. Because digoxin is absent from standard drug screening panels, the perpetrator utilized a chemical bypass designed to leave the hospital's oversight systems blind. Shortly after the CEO's death, the hospital recorded 2 more sudden fatalities: patients Sarah von Wallenberg and Mary Smith. The victims shared a specific profile. Both were older, single women with chronic health issues and no family in the city to monitor their treatment or question a sudden change. Specialized testing confirmed that both women had also succumbed to massive, unprescribed digoxin overdoses. The pattern of isolated victims and clinical execution pointed investigators toward a specific archetype: an angel of death. This profile describes a medical professional who assumes the role of a twisted mercy killer, relieving patients of their perceived suffering. A killer was now operating within the hospital staff, turning a place of recovery into a site of targeted predation. To find the killer, police looked at the logistics of the weapon. At Atlanta Memorial, digoxin is an experimental drug locked in a high-security pharmacy that requires a specialized electronic passkey for entry. The killer utilized a misplaced keycard to gain entry, then performed a meticulous swap to hide the theft. They replaced vials of digoxin with identical bottles of normal saline, peeling off and swapping the labels. This maneuver kept the digital inventory balanced, registering no missing medication during routine audits. Suspicion fell on nurse Brian Martin. He was on shift for every death, and his medical background gave him the specialized knowledge required to execute the label swap without being detected by his peers. Investigators also uncovered a dark history. Brian had previously worked at another hospital where he was suspected of assisting in a patient's death, a case involving an insulin overdose that the administration had quietly suppressed. With a history of mercy killing and the technical access to the pharmacy, Brian became the centerpiece of the angel of death theory. Despite the circumstantial evidence against Brian, the core logic of the murder weapon began to undermine the theory. Genuine mercy killers prioritize ending pain, typically choosing depressants like morphine or insulin that allow a patient to slip away peacefully. A digoxin overdose, by contrast, causes violent arrhythmias and a slow, agonizing cardiac failure. It is the antithesis of a compassionate end. The victimology further fractured the profile. While Sarah and Mary were chronically ill, Erica Schulman was a healthy, prominent executive. She was a statistical anomaly that a true mercy killer would have no reason to target. The presence of a healthy CEO in a pool of mercy victims suggested the killer's motive was far more personal than a desire to end suffering. A half-empty bottle of digoxin was eventually found abandoned at a nurse's station. For a perpetrator capable of bypassing a secure pharmacy without a trace, leaving the murder weapon on a public counter was a massive procedural inconsistency. The evidence seemed designed to be found, pointing toward the nursing staff with a precision that felt theatrical rather than accidental. The individual behind the murders wasn't a doctor or a nurse, but the CEO's own administrative assistant, Ivy. Ivy had been involved in a secret relationship with board member Robert Harms, who was simultaneously dating Erica Schulman. Ivy believed Harms would leave the CEO for her, but the promised breakup never happened. Leveraging the theory Jonas established earlier regarding pre-admission poisoning, Ivy used her access to the office to spike Schulman's coffee with digoxin. This triggered the initial arrhythmia, placing Erica in the hospital bed, where Ivy could administer the final lethal dose. The murder of the CEO stemmed from a personal grudge, born from a betrayal, and executed by an insider who understood exactly how to exploit the hospital's blind spots. This leaves the most horrifying detail of the case: the deaths of Sarah von Wollenberg and Mary Smith. Ivy realized that a single high-profile murder would lead detectives straight to Schulman's personal life and Robert Harm's. To protect her alibi, she needed to change the narrative. If Erica Schulman was the only victim, the investigation would remain focused on a tight circle of people with a personal motive. By murdering two random, vulnerable patients, Ivy manufactured a fake pattern. This forced police to expand their search ring, looking for a serial killer among the hundreds of medical staff members, instead of a single assistant with a grudge. In the end, Sarah and Mary were murdered simply to provide the static for Ivy's escape. It is a reminder that the most dangerous killers aren't always driven by a compulsion. Sometimes they are driven by a cold, calculating need for a perfect alibi.